thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end. The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count.
Professional liar Caroline Leavitt was up to her usual antics during a recent press briefing when she made this alarming admission.
The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period.
If you think that sounds bad, just wait until you hear what one of Trump's top economic advisors, Kevin Hassett, said in response.
There's basically two surveys that they make. They have something called the payroll survey and then the household survey. And the payroll survey is a bunch of firms, mailing in their records. And, firms that forgot to mail in their records because of the shutdown, they could mail them in retroactively. But the household survey is a survey where people just sort of call people up and say, how are you doing today? And the household survey wasn't conducted in October. So we're going to get half the employment report. We'll get the jobs part, but we won't get the unemployment rate. And that'll just be for 1 month. But yeah, it is true that we probably will maybe be able to concoct something, but we'll never actually know for sure what the unemployment rate was in October.
The October employment report for the payroll side will be able to be calculated, but the household survey wasn't completed. So we'll get sort of half a jobs report. Most everything else, I think, we'll be able to concoct the correct number after we look back. But we will never know what the unemployment rate was in October.
Just so we're all on the same page here, Hassett admitted that the administration, and more importantly, the public, may never know what the true unemployment rate for the entire month of October is because the Republicans didn't want to extend healthcare subsidies. It is so absurd and very worrying to hear something like that from such a high-ranking economic advisor, let alone his comments about concocting the right numbers. And when you think about that, can we even trust? We can't trust that number, right? If you're concocting the numbers that are going to make you look good, put you in a favorable light. Again, these are the people in charge of our economy, of our government. Like, what? Things are terrible in this country.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong. Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election.
Why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's the big thing. You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? You go back to election day. Look what happened 2 or 3 days before with massive, wonderful job numbers, trying to get him elected or her elected, trying to get whoever the hell was running. We're doing so well. I believe the numbers were phony, just like they were before the election. And there were other times. So you know what I did? I fired her.
Right.
And you know what? I did the right thing.
Bruh, Trump fired the lead official on economic data as the tariffs caused the market to drop, simply because he don't like the numbers that these officials are giving out. That is a hallmark sign of authoritarianism, right? And fascism. I don't like the numbers you put out, so I'm gonna fire you because it doesn't serve my agenda. This is an example of how Trump and these Republicans are so hostile towards unfavorable economic reports because it doesn't put them in a good light. So their next decision is to, let me fire the people who are reporting accurate numbers about the economy. That way, they won't get in the way of our mission to fool the American people to think that the economy is doing great. And it's a big boom, right? The economy is having a huge boom. No, it's not. The numbers don't lie. And of course, they can get, adjusted and revised, right? Through different periods. But we know the economy is not in good shape whatsoever. And it says that our country's leadership is in the gutter. And they're sowing doubt about pieces of data like this. It shows you that we don't have we have a coward. We have a coward in office. And somebody that is a bully. And a bully who cannot stand to accept any type of accountability for his missteps or his shortcomings. And same with the Republicans, right? It's disgusting.
His approval rating for the handling of the economy is actually down to 37%, and his disapproval rating for his handling of the economy is up to 62%. So he can talk about a con job all he wants, but the American public is not happy with the way he's handling his economy. Most Americans, all below the top 20%, so the bottom 40, the middle class, and the middle class, all have only barely kept up with inflation as measured by the CPI. There are other measures of inflation. The Ludwig Institute just put out one using what they think people actually buy that show people falling farther behind. But the best you can say is that people have barely kept up for the last 5 years, unless you're in the top 20%, in which case you're up 49%. Income inequality has gotten worse. Wage increases have diverged. And you have what we call a wealth effect, that these people participate in the stock market more heavily. 87% of all the stocks owned by individuals are now owned by this top 20%, and that's up about 10 percentage points from a few years ago. Consumer sentiment done by the University of Michigan. What do you find there? You find there that consumers' good feelings about the economy, their feeling about spending, is now the second lowest it's been since they started this study way back in 1978. The only time it was just a tiny bit lower was June of 1922, when we had that spurt of inflation that hit about 9%.
Prices are up during this administration. There has been inflation every month of this administration. Moreover, the pace of inflation has accelerated now for 5 consecutive months. It hit 3% in September, so prices in September were 3% higher than they were a year prior, and they were 1.7% higher than they were in January, the month that President Trump returned to office. Now, he keeps saying that every single price is down. I think the overall numbers show that is clearly not true, and I think Americans know that. If you look at the CPI, Consumer Price Index data, it'll show you that thousands of individual products have increased in price since President Trump returned to the White House. Grocery prices as well are up since President Trump returned to office. They were up 1.4% since January. They're up 2.7% compared to a year prior. Grocery prices are up in 5 of the 6 overarching categories of products that are tracked by the Consumer Price Index. Now, President Trump keeps saying it's only beef that's up. Yes, beef has experienced one of the biggest increases, but it's far from only beef. Again, far more products in the grocery aisle have increased than decreased. Other big risers include coffee and bananas, 2 products that are heavily imported in the U.S. and thus are subject to President Trump's major tariffs on those items.
In the middle of the shutdown, we found Donald Trump's approval rating sitting at 43%. When we had checked in earlier in the year, earlier in this second term for him, that number was at 47%. Now, that's not a huge drop, but that certainly is lower. And that's also in the context of other polls that were showing the same thing. The Real Clear Politics average, which tracks all of the different polls out there, found that during the shutdown, Trump's average approval rating actually dropped to the lowest point of his second term.
All those data points you saw and heard are direct results of Trump's presidency and Republican policies that only seek to enrich the ultra-wealthy and corporations who rake in millions and billions of dollars every year. Not the workers who generated their wealth in the first place. Okay? So if there's anybody to blame, you just have to look at the President of the United States and these Republican leaders who are doing their hardest, working their hardest to make sure the common man, the common woman, does not see success, does not see growth, right, in their employment level, or more importantly, in their wages being increased. They're working hard to make sure those people stay down and are poor and are desperate. But they want you to believe it's somebody else's fault, okay? They want you to believe that it has to do with these officials, right, who are putting out these reports and these numbers because the numbers are rigged. Give me a break. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.